I need you to knock some sense into me. I'm sure you can.
Yeah, I don't know. I enjoy listening to you. I don't always agree with everything.
All right. Enough of this persiflage.
So, you want my question?
I'm certainly not going to get myself in trouble by telling you what to do.
That makes great sense. Gosh, that's good.
Did I overwhelm you with words and wisdom?
I've got 7 kids. I feel like I could call you every day.
Wait, you're telling me I'm wrong? Disconnect.
Yes, I am, Dr. Ray.
You just need to tune in to Dr. Ray, honey. He's got all the answers.
Am I right or am I right?
Probably.
Now, from the studios of Living Bread Radio Network in Canton, Ohio, the hometown of Mother Angelica, here's Dr. Ray.
Doctor gave me some cream for my skin rash. Said I was a site for psoriasis. You ain't paying for this. Okay, you're paying indirectly as your support of your local affiliate, your local network. That's all I had on this E-Person Monday, where we're going to get into the E-Persons that come in. I call them E-Persons because email. Email is gender insensitive. And, you never know when the language is going to change on you. It changes day by day. And I can't even call them missives anymore because, again, I'm assuming probably missives. But we'll get to those momentarily. Monologue, I'll start it right out. Pay attention as you drive through, say, for example, a suburban neighborhood or just a neighborhood with houses side by side and front-load garages with the door up. Now, be careful because you don't want to take your eyes off the road. How many of those garages do you see that are so jammed full of stuff that the car sits outside? Fair amount, right? The other ones you don't know because the garage door is down. It isn't clutter so much as it is accumulation. Usually when I'll do a talk, especially a talk arranged by the ladies, they always give me all kinds of stuff. They just do. They give me so many nice things. Very, very thoughtful books and coffee mugs and T-shirts, just all kinds of stuff. Now, given that I have done somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 talks in my career, can you imagine all that stuff? Typically, you just get stuff no matter where you go. If you go to an event, you could walk away with stuff. If you go out to eat and you have kids, they get stuff, toys and trinkets because they ordered a kid's meal. If you go to a restaurant, you got the crayons and the coloring stuff. Get your hair cut, you get 3 rubber spide ears. Your catechism verses. My daughter in kindergarten had 49 erasers because every time they read something, and she read a little bit in kindergarten, they could go to the goodie bag. She had a thing for erasers. At one point, her total was 49. Call me a Neanderthal. No kid needs 49 erasers. Dr. Ray, it's not needing. It's something that she earned. Yes, it is. My wife and I said, Hanny, her name's Hannah, we called her Hanny. Hanny, pick the 2 you want, honey. Give the rest back to your teacher. And she looked at me like, I earned those. Yeah, you did, honey. But it's pretty excessive. It's pretty excessive. Now, has this and similar lessons in my young daughter Hannah's life kept her from accumulating things as an adult? No. No, it hasn't. And if you expect those kinds of lessons that you teach your kids to translate 100% into adulthood, forget it. They are, one, their own personalities, and two, the culture is just get. You have to make an active effort to declutter and deaccumulate. You have to actively do it. Passively, the stuff just comes at you. Now, granted, a lot of people buy and go get. That's true. But adding to it, for example, at Christmas time, you get a lot of people who care for you. They're going to get you gifts. You get all kinds of gifts at Christmas time. So you get another sweater. How many sweaters you got? Get another tool. How many tools you got? 9 hammers? Here's a 10th hammer. This is something unique to American culture, say the last, I'd say 100, 150 years. Maybe not 150, maybe 100. Gained momentum in the last 60, 70, last 2, 3 generations. It's gained momentum. What used to be for utility in life, you needed it, is now 1, excess, or 2, trinkets. There's a certain restaurant I like to go to. Before you get to the restaurant, you walk through their particular gallery of stuff. Virtually every single thing in there, other than the chocolate, is a trinket. Various sizes of trinkets. Some of them are expensive, some of them are just trinkets. All just trinkets. It's all adornment. Put upon ourselves. A lot of people, if you live long enough, you accumulate. It's just going to happen. You just accumulate. Your drawers are jammed. Your closets are jammed. Your garage may be jammed. You may even have a storage center that you rent. Put other stuff that you can't really get in your basement. I think there's several problems with this. One, just the sheer quantity is distracting, and it sends a message of, is this where some of my content lies? Oh, Dr. Ray, you're really stretching with your interpretations now. Stay with me. Stay with me. We keep a lot of this stuff because somebody gave it to us, and we think we have an obligation to keep it because they gave it to us. It was very nice of them to give it to us, but I can't keep everything people give me. Neither can you. You can't. Oh, but this was my aunt's. I mean, she wanted me to have it, and I've had it for 22 years, and where is it? It's kind of, I don't know where it is. It's kind of one, I don't know, off the shelf over there, I think. So we feel this, I think, misguided obligation to keep anything that was given to us, especially if it's supposed to have some meaning. Or we keep things, and I'm guilty of this too. You go down on my workbench, and there's about 9 softballs that are on my pegboard from various games that meant something to me. Now, those games were 20, 30, 40 years ago. Now, I've thought about pitching those softballs. What do I keep them for? You know what's going to happen? When I die, my kids are going to come in and pitch them. That's what's going to happen. Dr. Ray, you're cold. Don't those things mean anything to you? Of course they do. They mean a lot to me. But, again, when you add in all the other stuff, for example, we used to play a lot of tournaments. And we get T-shirts when you win the tournament. And we had a very, very good team for many, many years. We won tons of tournaments. And you get trophies. And me being the coach of the team, I had the coach trophy. A lot of times I gave it to the guys, but nobody wanted it, so I had the trophies. And the T-shirts. 1987 Tri-State Champs kind of thing. I got rid of most of those T-shirts. There's just a bunch of them. The trophies. I remember I took 50 trophies to one of our sponsors and said, here you go. I think I gave 25 of them to our parish because we also had a church team. We kept winning our league every year. So it's an active effort. My wife and I call it thinning. It's an active effort to go through stuff. And the easiest way to do it is to see how much of it is no longer even relevant. For example, all of those manuals, all of those guarantees that come with the product that you bought, you got 20, 25, 30, you got a mower, you got a weed eater, you got a refrigerator, you got a freezer, you got a microwave, you got all kinds of pieces of equipment, if you will. And my wife and I just noticed that some of them we don't even have anymore. Something was from a TV that we don't have. Or a microwave. And if you don't make an active effort to go through that stuff, it just gathers. Clutter can also make you feel like you're not in control. There's stuff everywhere. There's just stuff everywhere. Counter space kind of gets invaded with stuff. When's the last time you looked at your counter and it was wide open empty? Except for maybe a Keurig coffee maker and a blender or a couple of things like that. The paper towel holder. It just happens, and the longer you live. You folks know this. You know that when you've had your parents pass away and you go in there, 90% of it, you have no need for it. You may say, yeah, well, I've always wanted this particular pan that Mom had, or yeah, that's a nice buffet. Maybe we can use that in the dining room. But short of that, all the stuff. I'm not saying you'd be cold about all this. I'm just really saying that it can become so excessive so fast, and the accumulation can bury you. And it's something to actively think it through, resist. I think I'm going to say it would be no exaggeration to say, me included, I could get rid of 50% of what I own or what adorns me in my house, and it wouldn't make one whit of a difference in the convenience of my life. And I half think that percentage is probably too low. Okay. Gotta go. I'll jump into the emails here momentarily.
This week on Christ is the Answer, we continue Father John's RCIA for Catholics series. Over the years of pastoring in church, Father John noticed that converts to Catholicism almost always know their newly found faith much better than their cradle Catholic brothers and sisters. So he put together an RCIA for Catholics series. Join us this week as Father John shows us the reasons for hope and why we must be good. Tune in for Christ is the Answer Monday through Fridays at 11 a.m. on Ave Maria Radio.
The Catholic Church teaches that Jesus Christ is literally and wholly present, body and blood, soul and divinity, under the appearances of bread and wine. Feeding 5,000 from a boy's 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, as recorded in John chapter 6, is quite a miracle. Yet the next day, Jesus downplays it in verse 27. Do not work for the food that perishes, but for the food that endures for eternal life, which the Son of Man will give you. Likewise, God's provision of manna to the Israelites in the desert was also a great miracle, yet Jesus similarly downplays it in verse 49. Your ancestors ate the manna in the wilderness, but they died. This is the bread that comes down from heaven, so that one may eat of it and not die. Jesus is clearly stating that his Eucharist is greater than both of these amazing miracles, and the Catholic Church absolutely takes him at his word. Examining the truths of the Catholic faith, this is faithforensics.org.
This program brought to you in part by Ave Maria Florida, A big kind of small town where golf carts take you everywhere and there's always something fun around the corner. Discover Championship Golf, resort-style amenities, and a town center full of shopping and dining. With Ave Maria University and Ave Maria Catholic Church at its heart, it's a community full of connection and charm. More than 25 model homes are available for viewing. More information can be found at AveMaria.com. That's AveMaria.com.
You're listening to Ave Maria Radio.
Ave Maria Radio.
House while your kids are still growing up is kind of like shoveling the sidewalk while it's snowing. Okie dokie, let's go to this one. This gentleman called a few weeks back. We talked on the phone, and I remember he alluded to an email that I did not know that he had sent, and I have it here. Over the past weekend, the conversation came up again with one of my daughters about baptism, baptizing our granddaughter. Now, this, as I remember, was their first child, the daughter's first child. The godfather was chosen, and the disappointment set in on me. Turns out, it is my son-in-law's father, who is not in the Catholic Church, who does not fulfill the Sunday obligation. Well, he wouldn't because he's not in the Catholic Church. But more so, it is how my daughter and son-in-law have come to the decision to choose. He gets to choose one, and my daughter gets to choose another. I remember the call, and he basically said she married a non-Catholic, and they're going to compromise on baptizing half of the children. Now, given that most people today don't welcome whatever children God gives them, typically 2 is considered the ideal American family. So I think that's what he is referring to when he says he gets to choose and then she gets to choose. So apparently he gets to choose the first one. But that's interesting because supposedly they went through marriage prep, if I recall, and the condition, the promise, the obligation is to raise the children Catholic. I suggested to Dad here that if he's going to talk to her about this, to ask about, did he make that promise? Does this mean he isn't fulfilling it? And I said, you got to be careful challenging her because it really sounds like they've decided. Now, I remember asking him, because it sounded like he took it personal. How could she turn her back on the way we raised her? She knows the faith, but she's playing very loose with the faith. Sadly, this is now almost the norm, that as many raised in the faith leave it, change it, massage it, reject it, neglect it. They just do it the way they want. And if they have any faith left, they go the cultural route. That is now the norm. When you have 50%, 40% of Gen Zers, those up to about age 27, saying they have no religion whatsoever. And if you go by the previous generation, many of them were raised with religion. They just decided, no relevance to their lives. The culture says you don't need it. The culture says we got better ways of thinking than those old throwback traditional moral ways which, by the way, have all kinds of research supporting them as the wisest way to live, but we don't need to look at that, because that doesn't suit my purposes. So in this situation, he says, I'm struggling with this and having a very hard time accepting it. Well, I understand that, sir. I could see how you would. But you're going to have to accept it. See, we don't like accepting things we don't want to accept, but you got to. For whatever the reason, you hope and pray that at some point your daughter returns to the way she was raised and says, okay, this ain't good. It isn't because I feel it should be me as the godfather, but she knows the process as a Catholic. And selecting those in good standing with the church. Thoughts? Yeah, she knows it. She ain't obeying it. It's very hard for people to... When I say accept, I don't mean celebrate. I don't mean agree with it. I simply mean recognizing your powerlessness. At this point, that little grandbaby. Now, again, I don't know what the priest is going to do when the godfather is a guy who's not even Catholic. I'm fuzzy on the rubrics on that. But also, he's not practicing. Whatever he is, he's kind of nothing in terms of religion. So I don't know how they're going to screen it or not, or if this is just their decision that, well, we can pick who we want, and then the church will just say, okay. Well, that might not happen. So I would say this. You can't take it personal. You can't look at it as a failure on your part to not raise her to embrace the Catholic faith even as an adult. You can't do that. You raised her as you thought best. I could have been better. Couldn't we all? You underestimated, I call it a casualty of the culture. You underestimated the power of the culture to shape the way people think and to shape them away from religion. My wife and I will cuddle down at night for an hour or so. We'll find a program to watch of some type, usually a drama or maybe a little bit of a sitcom or sometimes a crime show. And everything in these shows is anything goes. Anything goes. And not only does anything go, but it's celebrated. The commercials, same thing in the commercials. All of them. They present a new way of thinking, a new way of living, a new morality, and it's all good. There's no downside to any of it. These are the happy people. It's relentless. And it's unrealistic to think that these young adults are not going to be shaped by it. Yes, there is a certain percentage who still stay in the faith, who embrace it and love what they were raised with. But many do not. And to look at it and say, somehow that reflects a failure on my part. It doesn't. Oh, Dr. Ray, you don't know. You're not in my house. You don't know. We could have been a lot better. Yes, okay, maybe you could. But I talked to an awful lot of people who, had you raised your children 3 generations ago with that level of exposure to the faith, the majority of them would have stayed in the faith. A much higher percentage. Different, sadly, times. I live in fear that one day the real world's greatest dad is going to show up to claim his rightful mug. His coffee mug. Yeah, world's greatest dad. Dr. Ray here. Program Doctor is in. Co-production, Ave Maria Radio Communications and EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. My website, drray.com, drray.com. The books are there, all 20. I think it's about 18 now. But there's 20 in fulfill, but there's 18 there. They're signed and they're discounted, so if you are interested. My son puts stuff up on Instagram. We try to put together, 30 to 60-second reels of some bit that would be helpful, some piece of info. So far, the the most views I got was a joke. It's a joke I tell at the beginning of some of my talks. And, yeah, that joke is now approaching 15 million views, which dwarfs anything else that I put up there. People want to be entertained. Dr. Ray, your discussion recently, when the woman called in, getting married, trying to decide who to invite or who not to invite, and if I recall correctly, this is a while back, if I recall correctly, there were some people that, like an aunt or someone, a sister of her mother that she's had no contact with, and I don't know if there was friction. I forget the reasoning, but it was someone that she just didn't want there for whatever the reason. And maybe I think if I remember now, it was the way this person was living morally, I think. Your discussion was useful and fairly comprehensive. Now, I'm going to argue with that fairly, but not in the way you think. You think I'm going to say, well, it was more than fairly comprehensive. No. It wasn't even fairly comprehensive. It was a 6-minute radio call. So we couldn't dig into all the dynamics, all the history, all the question marks. No, we just talked a little bit about the situation in general terms. So it wasn't even fairly comprehensive. But I'll take the compliment. And then comes the big but. But it seemed to me that you omitted one complication. Oh, I omitted more than one. Omitted a bunch. Anyone who is invited is expected, I know, Dr. Ray, not obligated. Well, yeah, but I think we're parsing words here. It's a given, unless you just sort of sneak in, sit in the back, to ante up with a present of some kind. If the bride invites someone she seldom sees, and the disregard is mutual, the invitee may well take it as a bid for loot. She could. Yes, she could. But, again, you're assessing motives. You're looking at, you're trying to read how someone will interpret being invited when they haven't been a part of your life, but they are related to your mother. So, yeah, on one hand, the decision whether or not is pretty clear. Reading how they're going to take it is fuzzy. Very fuzzy. Also, Dr. A, I missed a bit of the call. So I don't know if her parents are alive or on the scene. Yeah, they're alive on the scene, if I remember. If her folks want their siblings invited, they should be. I don't remember. I don't remember whether the daughter said, my mom wants her sister there and I don't. I don't remember that. But apparently, Mary here, who said this, is saying, yeah, well, you owe it to the aunts and the uncles. Okay. Good enough. As I screen down, I know Andrew and Eric have told me many times, Dr. Ray, just put them in a folder so you don't have to screen down. Oh, yes, I meant to say this. Oh. A few weeks back, we had a discussion, a number of calls about hospice and what exactly does it entail? What's the duration of hospice? The one lady called in, and she says, yeah, just flat out didn't want her mother gone to hospice. Just no way, no how, because someone she knew had gone to hospice and within a very short period of time died. And we talked about hospice care. And somebody called in and said, Jimmy Carter was in hospice for almost 2 years. And in fact, I just found out that my aunt, who's 95, is considered in hospice care even though she's in highly assisted living. She's not in a memory care unit. So that led me to wonder if, in fact, there's been kind of a change in the view of hospice. Traditionally, most people view hospice as an end-of-life alternative where you get palliative care and the end is pretty near. This came from Valerie, and thank you so much, Valerie. I'm a hospice nurse and heard you speaking of President Carter. 2 doctors have to agree that a patient may pass away within 6 months if their disease illness continues on its current path. Okay, what I think she's saying is to be eligible for hospice. I think she's not saying to be eligible for pulling the plug. To be eligible for hospice, 2 doctors have to agree that the person is within 6 months, possibly, of passing on. Okay. I have had some patients graduate from hospice, but they usually come back after a period of time. They have to be recertified every 6 weeks after the first 6 months. Okay, if they live beyond what the doctors thought they might have lived, then they have to be recertified every 6 weeks and might be deemed no longer eligible for hospice. In other words, they're doing too good. Some patients in hospice, Dr. Ray, live a lot longer than expected, and even they expect, and others pass away very quickly. And she closes with this, in caps: life is a unique journey. That it is. Valerie, thank you. It's Dr. Ray here, E-Person Monday. Delighted to have you with me. Speaking of clutter, I want my children to have all the things that I couldn't afford. And then I want to move in with them. It's E-Person Monday. Dear Dr. Ray, a couple of friends and a priest. See, when they pull the priest card, then I got to answer it. Yeah, I was reading that. Got to. It's law. A couple of friends and a priest recommended that I contact you. How do I address or explain my irregular marital situation? Single mom, never married, to my 5-year-old daughter, while holding out God's plan for marriage. The couple is sacramentally married and raising children together. Background, Dr. Ray. My daughter was conceived in a non-consensual manner. All right, I'm not sure what she means by that. With the man I was dating for 2 years. It could be all the way from forced to I wasn't into this and I gave in. It became clear to me that as a fallen away, very angry and resentful, even hateful Catholic, the man was not marriage material for me. He was more of a fun activity partner and friend. I realize in hindsight this was not, and she capitalizes, not a good idea. I conceived my daughter. I thought maybe I should try to give her a proper family life, and I went to a pre-Cana retreat with my daughter's father. I'm surprised he agreed to go. Well, apparently, as I read on here, He became angry and walked out of the day-long retreat and was also very angry toward God and the church during the weekend retreat. Okay, this guy's flat out hostile. Hostile. We just didn't see eye to eye on morality and matters of the faith. After my daughter's birth and his decision that he didn't want to get married in a Catholic church, he would be okay with the justice of the peace, he was still pressing me for marital relations. I wouldn't consent. So we broke up when he went off with his accountant. Okay. My daughter and I moved out of state. We live in Oklahoma. My daughter's father lives in California. We visit him when I travel back to the area 3 or 4 times a year. My daughter knows she has a papa, and I believe an idealized image of him. I always try to speak positive of him and say that his work, he has 2 businesses in San Diego, and we live in Ohio near Grandpa and Grandpa, who are getting older and will soon need our help. My daughter will be in 2 of her cousin's weddings in the coming months and has been thinking about marriage. The other day she asked me if I was married. And then who was I going to marry? I answered, no, I'm not, honey. And whoever God has in store for me. She replied, I know. You should marry Papa. How can I explain to her that I'm not going to marry Papa? He is not a good man, hates God and the Catholic Church, and repeatedly disrespected me, especially sexually. How do I explain God's plan for marriage and yet not be living it myself? Well, now, wait a minute. You're not living it yourself because that choice was taken away from you. It's not a matter that you got to explain to your daughter that, in fact, the church has this plan for marriage and you decided you're not going to live it. That's not the way it goes. We'll get to this explanation in a second. It is true that he was begging me to marry him through a justice of the peace. Well, if you're Catholic, for you to agree to a justice of the peace would be highly improper. You'd be viewed as civilly married, but not morally sacramentally married in the end. So when my daughter grows up, she might ask him why we never married, and he will likely tell her that I wouldn't marry him. Ugh! Things seem like they're getting complicated as she gets older. I don't want to tell her that she was conceived in, okay, that is what happened. It was forced sexuality and damage her innocence. Yet I don't want her to think it's okay to sleep with someone before getting married. And I'm going to tell her that this is what we believe as Catholics. Okay, that's all good. That's all good. And I would suggest not sharing the conception context. To what end? How do I approach this, Dr. Ray? I know she's very young, but I worry about being able to answer these questions truthfully. She just turned 5. Okay. Several things. At this point, when she says, why don't you marry Papa? You could say, well, Papa has to want to be married, and I don't think he does. Because we get married in the Catholic Church, and Papa doesn't want to get married in the Catholic Church. Because we're Catholic. He doesn't want to do that. As she gets older and she says, where is he? Why isn't he with us? I think you be straight in a gentle way. He doesn't want to be with us. He wants to see you, but to live with us, he doesn't want to, because that would mean that we need to do it the way God says to do it, which would be to get married in our church and live as husband and wife, and at this point he doesn't want to. So you explain it, at the same time you're talking about the teaching of the church, you're saying he doesn't want to follow the teaching of the church. Now, if she as a little kid hears this and thinks, well, he's bad, you say, that's not our place to say, honey. We just have to accept that he won't do it that way. So therefore you've taught on one hand the way you want to do it as a Catholic, the way God says to do it as a Catholic, and the fact that he doesn't want to do it that way, that he's not Catholic, and that he doesn't want to be married in the Catholic Church, the Catholic way, which is what you believe in and what you're raising your daughter with. So it's not quite as complicated as you think. A lot of times we have to explain the moral teaching of the church and at the same time explain why someone isn't following it. Or just the mere fact that they aren't following it. You may not know the why, but they just aren't. And they have the freedom to do that. But that doesn't change the teaching of the church. Dr. Ray.
Underwritten in part by the following nonprofit.
Are you paying high prices with a traditional health insurance company that pays for things that violate your conscience? There's an alternative available. Solidarity HealthShare is a community of faithful individuals and families that never share into immoral medical services, all while saving you money with prices starting as low as $85 per month for singles and $512 for families. Never fund another abortion with your healthcare dollars. Call 844-313-4999 to learn more.
In the metropolitan area that I frequent, one finds the usual bombardment of billboards. An invasion made more painful because, one after another, we see either cannabis or personal injury billboards. The underlying message of these billboards is essentially the same. Each of us lives in a personal bubble. Through chemical means, that is, by getting high, we can maintain that bubble. And if anyone were to threaten or injure our private space, we have the option of calling a lawyer and striking back. Which is why, I guess, when I speak to those entering the abortion facility, I am told to get out of their space or to mind my own business. Yes, I should just go home and envelop myself in a cloud of cannabis. And if a truck hits me on my way home, I should hit back. That's the modern way. GuadalupeWorkers.org.
Hello, Steve Ray here from Footprints of God Pilgrimages. Want to celebrate some amazing anniversaries this year in France? We'll visit Normandy Beach to celebrate our heroic military for the 80th anniversary of D-Day. Also, the 100th anniversary of the canonization of St. Therese of Lisieux. Join us this October for our Saints and Shrines of France and a visit to the newly renovated Notre Dame Cathedral.
Find the Ave Maria Radio travel tab at AveMariaRadio.net.
Okay, Andrew, keep that playing a little bit here. I'm scrolling for another e-person. Still haven't figured out how to put it in a file. Oh, no, I can't do that one. All right, I'm going to leave that one out here. Let's see what this one says. Okay, I got it. Dr. Ray, this is a distressful situation. My young cousin, who is about 45 and with no husband, has 2 boys. Nice home, good job. No husband, no faith. Okay. Her 14-year-old boy has always been a little odd, and his mother has allowed it. For instance, when he was 5 and he needed glasses, she allowed him to get a pair of men's size glasses, which made him look rather odd. And so he has always worn oversized men's glasses. He has a brother who is very, very much all boy and a real show-off on the piano. He's 4 or 5 years older than the boy I'm talking about. The mother has been married to her father, but divorced and married another guy, and divorced because that guy was a drinker. My young cousin, their mother, and the second husband never shared a house. They each stayed in their own during their 2-year marriage. Okay. Her parents were choir directors and had jobs at any church that would hire them all their lives, and so being Catholic, the kids weren't raised that way, so she doesn't have a good grounding in any faith. My young cousin was often made to perform on her little violin or sing as a child in those churches. Well, I'm assuming... Well... Okay, I just got mixed up here on the person she's talking about. Anyway, this may clear it up. Her 14-year-old boy is apparently transitioning to be a girl. His name is Oliver. His mom put on Facebook that he received a music award from his high school, and the name on the certificate for him is Alice. Mother allowed the new name to be on Facebook. I don't know what to do or how to react to this kind of behavior from his mother. Not much to react to. He's taken that direction. She doesn't seem to have any moral issues with it, because you said she's, of course, not at all in the Catholic Church. You described her very much as a feminist. So there's not a whole lot I can do. I'm close to the family. I'm very disappointed in my young cousin, the mother of this child. Okay, hold on here. Let me get this right here. Okay, the young cousin's 45. The child is 13. So this would be, what, cousin once removed? I would say to the boy, if you want to become a girl, you wait until you're 18 and out of my house. I would not let this happen, because I know the kids go through phases. That is true, they do. And this might be cool for right now. But this is a life-changing decision. I guess I'm just old-fashioned. No, you're not. See, that's what the culture does. If you're looking at something and you're saying there are question marks here and we need to explore this, we need to find out what is happening, what is going on, what are the inputs, what is the context. Many times the parents are in full celebratory agreement with something like this, so that leaves you out of the picture. But don't call yourself old-fashioned, see, because now you're taking the culture's label. Most cultures used to respect older people. They were the ones that lived longer and had wisdom. Not anymore. The older people are old-fashioned Neanderthal throwbacks. Please help. I'm afraid I can't. There's not a whole lot you can do. Obviously, she celebrates it. He's headed that way. You'll have to watch how this all unfolds. There's been a momentum now of detransitioning and much dissatisfaction in the whole process. But at this point, so the guy is 14. Okay, you described him as a little bit odd. There is a higher percentage of children who have been diagnosed with some sort of autistic spectrum condition who are gender confused. And that seems to be the research coming out. So this may be one of those situations. But if you even want to talk to Mom, you can ask her, how did this all come about? What does she see of it? What does she think about it? She's probably been told, if you don't do this, he's a high risk for suicide. However, the research is indicating now that some of this transitioning over really raises the risk of suicide. So again, you're not old-fashioned. And if you're close to your cousin, then you sit down and you talk with her. You say, okay, how did you come to this? How are you interpreting it? Where do you go from here? Is he going to fully transition through sex reassignment surgery? Are there drugs being given to offset what's happening to his male body? Are you familiar with the research on this? That's what you do. And see what she knows, but it sounds like from the way you describe this, she is just going with the movement of the culture that says this is the child's decision, even as a minor, and she has to appreciate it and celebrate it and not even question it. Although it's fascinating, we question many other things our adolescents choose to do or to look at or to think about themselves. But this one seems to be, at least for the moment, for many, off limits to even explore. Okay, Dr. Ray, end of E-Person Monday. I want to thank Andrew Kruchek over there in Ave Maria. Good Lord permitting, see you tomorrow, where we can talk back and forth, inter-ear, not interface, because we can't see each other, but inter-ear. Till then, well, until then and beyond, walk with God. He knows the best way you can walk.
For information on Dr. Ray's presentations, books, and CDs, visit drray.com and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.